What's up, biker bros? This is Nathan from the Gen Z Biker Blog. I'm here today in the beautiful city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and I'm about to do a video review on my very own 2009 Kawasaki ER6N 650. For those of you that are not familiar with this bike, and most of you probably won't be because it's a pretty unique bike, the ER6N is essentially the naked Street Fighter version of the Kawasaki 650 Ninja. It's the exact same frame and engine and all, except it's the naked version. Personally, when I was looking for a bike, I simply wanted a bike. I wasn't especially set on this bike, but it worked out because it was everything that I really wanted in a motorcycle, especially a first motorcycle. These bikes were not very popular when they first came out in 2009. People really didn't like the naked look. Because of that, at the moment, these bikes are fairly cheap. The naked look, though, is really making a comeback in the power sport motorcycle world, so it's cool. I got this bike for about $2,500 on Facebook Marketplace last year. Just about a year ago from now, and this bike is everything that I could have ever asked for. So before we get into some of the modifications that I've done to the bike, let me just tell you some of the specs that I pulled off the internet, so you know a little bit more of like the nitty-gritty details of the bike. So like I said, it's a 2009 Kawasaki 650. It's an ER6N. That's the model name. It's a 4-stroke parallel twin. Cops are shooting radar over there. That's pretty cool. Motorcycle cops on Harleys. That's Milwaukee for ya. So, my Kawasaki is a 4-stroke parallel twin engine. It's got 72 horsepower and 66 foot-pounds of torque. And really, I don't care especially too much about horsepower when it comes to motorcycles. I really more care about the amount of torque that a bike has. And now, like I said, this is not really technically a sport bike. This is more of an upright, naked sport bike. So as far as power goes, it's not going to be as powerful as a typical sport bike like your R1, your R6, whatever. Anything in the same amount of cc, it's really not going to compare when it comes to high-end speed, but that's why I focus more on torque. It does have a decent amount of torque at the low end, so off the line it's pretty torquey. You can pull wheelies on this thing left and right because of the amount of torque that it has and the way the power is distributed at that low end. 11.8 second quarter mile, and then our 0 to 60 is 3.5 seconds. So that's actually not too bad. So 0 to 60, 3.5 seconds, 11.8 second quarter mile. Top speed on this is about 130 miles an hour. Now, wet weight on this bike is 432 pounds, so kind of middle of the road. It's a little bit heavier than, like I said, other bikes in its class, but it's still not too bad. So one of the last specs on this bike is something that I actually do care a lot about, and that is the simple fact that the gas tank is 4.1 gallons. So that's a pretty big gas tank, honestly. If you are looking at, for example, my Sportster 48 that you've possibly seen in some of my other videos, you'll know that that gas tank is, I believe, only 2.1 gallons. And then if you're looking at this bike, you'll kind of understand where I'm getting at as far as some of the modifications that I've done to the bike. The fact that it's got a decent sized gas tank makes it actually a decent bike for going long distance. I go back and forth between Illinois and Wisconsin on this bike, no problem, without having to fill up. And actually, right after I purchased this bike, I actually did the Lake Michigan Circle Tour on it late October of last year. And although it's not your typical touring bike, it did fairly well for what it is. So getting into some of the modifications that I've done to this bike, pretty cool little Buell, and then looks like a Kawi Z900, I think they are. So now getting back into the modifications of this bike, when I first purchased the bike, it came with a Corbin seat, which is a really nice seat. I thoroughly enjoy this seat. The look and style is it's pretty aggressive compared to the stock seat. And it also had a Two Brothers Racing Shorty exhaust on it. And that's one of my favorite parts about this bike, is the exhaust tone on it. It's a pretty cool sound, as you can hear right now. It's not a terribly loud bike, but the sound, the tone that it produces is a really awesome sound. So it had the Two Brothers exhaust, the Corbin seat, and it also has an LED underglow kit on it. It's just a light blue underglow on it. So when I was looking at bikes on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist and such, an exhaust and underglow was something that I had planned on doing no matter what bike I got. So when I found this bike for $2,500 and it had some of the modifications that I already had wanted, it was the perfect setup for me. So obviously I went ahead and bought it, and yeah, it's got a few blemishes here and there. It's got a couple dents and scratches from the previous owner. But like I said, it was literally the perfect bike for me, as far as size, as far as modifications, mileage, all that. It was taken care of pretty well. And then when I decided that I wanted to go ahead and do the Lake Michigan Circle Tour on it, then I went ahead and did a few other upgrades to it and bought some new gear and such. So in doing that trip, I bought a Puig front fairing, just to kind of deflect some of the wind off me on that trip. Because keep in mind, the Lake Michigan Circle Tour, that's a lot of miles, especially on a more sport-oriented bike. I mean, Lake Michigan Circle Tour, I did 915 miles in, I think I did it in 3 days, maybe 4 at most. I can't remember exactly, it was last year, but like I said, it's a lot of miles. So I wanted to kind of deflect the wind off me a little bit, and that was one of the easiest options to do so, being that this is a naked bike. I also installed, as you can see on my right hand right here, a throttle lock. So now the throttle lock is really beneficial for someone that rides a sport-oriented vehicle, going long distance, because essentially a throttle lock is basically a cruise control. Now I got this throttle lock from a company called Throttlemeister. So you simply twist it towards you, that locks the throttle in place at the RPMs you're at, and then you simply turn it back to unlock the throttle. And that really did save me a huge deal of stress on my wrist and hand. When I did that trip. So there's a little pull for you, I guess. But I don't know if I honestly would have been able to do it. And I actually did, that company that I got that from did sponsor me for that trip. The company that sponsored me was Throttlemeister. They were actually local to Milwaukee. I think they actually have since went out of business from what I've heard. Not 100% sure. But it's a great product. They're machined metal bar ends. They give you the matching side to the actual throttle lock. And it really worked well. It was a fairly flawless install. And like I said, it saved me a great deal of stress on my wrist and hand during the actual trip. On top of that, what else did I do? Oh no, I think that's about all. Yeah, as far as modifications go, That's all I've done on my own. The throttle lock and the Puig windscreen. I like them both very much. I like the look of them on the bike itself. But yeah, so that's my 2009 Kawasaki ER6N. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. If you want to see any different kinds of videos, also leave a comment below suggesting what you want to see. There's not too many of these ER6Ns out there. They're pretty popular in Europe, like I said, not so popular in the United States. But leave a comment below if you have a Kawasaki ER6N. Feel free to connect with me. I'd love to meet some fellow ER6N owners. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to click the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell icon below if you want to be notified for my future uploads. Peace out, biker bros. Thanks and have a great day.